Yogena Chittasya Padena Vacham Madam Sharirasya Chavaitikena Yopakaruttam Pravaram Muninam Patanjali Pranjali Ranatosmi Stuve Patanjalim Vyasam Shankaram Chanutrayam Katra Sutrasya Bhashisya Krama Vivaranasya Cha. So we are continuing the discussion on Ashtanga Yoga. The yoga practice which has got 8 important components, that is Ahimsa, Satya, Asteya, Brahmacharya, Aparigraha, that is non-violence, truthfulness, freedom from greed, pure life, non-receiving of unnecessary gifts, and reading holy scriptures. These are the 8 fundamental disciplines which begin with Yama. Of course, the whole 8 elements constitute the whole of yoga practice. That is Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhi. It's the 8 limbs. So, we already discussed some of the Yamas, the fundamental universal disciplines. Now we are continuing the discussion on Ahimsa. Ahimsa means non-violence. So it is not non-violence in the physical sense of the term alone. So the 35th Sutra of Sadhana Pada will make this clear. Ahimsa pradisthayam tasannitho vairatya. The meaning is, as a yogi gets established in the ideal of non-violence, then all beings, animals, other human beings, all living beings will feel the impact of the yogi's dedication to the ideal of non-violence. So they also become non-violent. They start practicing non-violence. This is the technical meaning. Now, so we have to understand here, it is not just giving up the practice of the physical practice of violence, but it means complete freedom from any kind of thought, word, deed or instinct connected to the very idea of violence. Means even the instinct for violence should be completely removed. That's the goal. So, as I mentioned in the last class, there are 3 levels of evolution in the practice of these disciplines, Yama and Niyama disciplines. So, Yama is Ahimsa, Satya, Asteya, Brahmacharya, Aparigraha. Niyama is Saucha, Santosha, Tapa, Swadhyaya, Isar, Pridhana. 10 disciplines, of which the first 5 disciplines are very important. So, as I said, Vyasa calls Sarva Bhauma Mahavata, means these are the fundamental disciplines, spiritual, moral disciplines, meant to be practiced by all people. Non-violence, truthfulness, absence of greed, pure life, reading holy scriptures. That means feeding our mind with creative, constructive, useful ideas by reading good books, or any way of connecting to a higher ideal. And Vyasa makes this point very clear. Vyasa and also a great lawgiver called Manu, as I mentioned last time. Even if we get fully established in Niyamas, it is not enough. Niyamas are Saucha, Santosha, Tapa, Swadhyaya, Isar, Pridhana. Means mental purity, that is internal purity and external purity, then strong willpower, dedication to your work, and then kind of inner contentment, and other related disciplines, reading books, and well, disciplines which are auxiliary, which are necessary for us to lead a civilized life, but not necessarily based on higher moral philosophy. So, this we have already discussed. Now coming to this subject, ahimsa pradishtayam sannidho vairatya. So there are three levels of evolution, as I mentioned. First, we try to practice non-violence, ahimsa, by deed, by word, by thought. We avoid any kind of violent thought, violent action, violent word. So this is the beginning. Then gradually we succeed in practicing this non-violence. Then the last stage is we get fully established in the idea of non-violence. So first, as a means. Second, we progress, we succeed in practicing non-violence. The third stage is that in which it becomes physically and psychologically impossible for us to think, to speak, or to act in a violent manner. So violence becomes an impossibility. We become so naturally established in non-violence that we do not have to make a special effort to avoid violent thought or violent deed, because our natural habit becomes non-violent. So at this stage, Patanjali says, people coming to you will slowly start feeling the influence of your own culture. It becomes impossible for you to do anything, to speak anything in a violent manner. So this is called ahimsa pradishtha in sense. It means being naturally and fully established in the idea of non-violence. The non-violence becomes our natural habit. Now, this requires a lot of effort, because instincts are mostly inherited and not acquired. You have to remember, Patanjali's system upholds two fundamental principles. One, the law of karma, and then the law of rebirth. So Patanjali insists again and again that death is not the end of the journey. Death is only a semicolon or a comma. It is not a full stop. So just as we acquire different characteristics, habits, instincts, samskaras, vrittis and vasanas in this life, and we go on accumulating this as a natural habit or character, we become a subtle personality. It is not the physical one, and this subtle personality is born again in the form of naturally inherited instincts and habits. So some of the great commentators in Patanjali's system gives an example. A small baby, when he or she is little, doesn't need an instruction to go to his or her mother, turn to his mother for protection or for food. The baby approaches the mother naturally, instinctively, for milk. There's a statement here. So, in the Vyasa makes this point, and more than Vyasa, another great commentator, his name was Varshayana. Varshayana was the great commentator on Nyaya Sutras. So it is one of the 6 important Indian systems of philosophy, that is Nyaya, Vaisheshika, Yoga, Sankhya, and Uttara Mimamsa, Pura Mimamsa. It's a great literary work on Nyaya, logic. It belonged around 2000 BC or maybe 1900 BC according to modern historians. So there's a commentary. There is an interesting statement in that commentary related to this, and some of the yoga commentators who wrote commentaries in Sanskrit on Patanjali's system quotes from Nyaya Sutras. It is Ayamatma Purva Sharirat Pretya Sharirantaramapannaha Kshutpididaha Purvabhyasta Mahara Manusmaran Stanyam Abhirasha. Ayamatma means the little child, baby. So it says Kshutpididaha means he is hungry and thirsty. So Purvabhyasta Mahara Manusmaran means in his previous life the little baby had got food from his mother, her mother, when she was small. So the habit is there. It is already accumulated in the mental system called chitta. So Anusmaran, he remembers, that little child, baby remembers, and then Stanyam Abhirasha. So the baby turns to her mother or his mother for quenching the thirst. It's a solution to the problem of kshu, and means should be hunger and thirst. Now what happens is, so instinct is not only psychological instincts, certain tendency for violent thought, violent deed, greed or covetousness. Any of these different characteristics. We already listed 27 types of characteristics. We already described in the 34th Sutra, so we won't repeat again. Now what happens? These tendencies, that means violent tendencies, tendencies related to greed, tendencies related to all kinds of negative, destructive habits get accumulated in the mental system, and they are brought forth to the mental surface, and we instinctively practice those things in the next life. So even these instincts should be removed. That's what Patanjali means here. That's the state of ahimsa pradishta. So pradishta means a state of being naturally and fully established in an idea. Satya pradishta means a state in which it becomes impossible for us to tell a lie. Even if we make a strong determination, well, tomorrow morning I am going to tell a lie. You take a decision, but when you really try to do that, you will be telling the truth. The opposite also is true. Some people, they make a strong determination to tell a truth. When they tell, it becomes a lie. So it could happen both ways. That's the meaning of ahimsa pradishta. That's called the siddha state, the last stage of practicing non-violence. The commentators of Patanjali Yoga Sutra makes an interesting point, and that should be remembered. They say all these 7 disciplines should be practiced more or less simultaneously. So when you practice yama, ahimsa, etc., then you should practice all other 4 disciplines of yama. Satya, Asteya, Brahmacharya, Parigraha, and so on. And you should also practice niyama, pranayama, pratyahara, dharana, etc. All these we will discuss gradually. So the point is, in a way, these disciplines are not in watertight compartments. They are not unrelated to each other. In a way, if you practice non-violence, mentally, physically, intellectually, then you will also, you have a tendency to desist from telling a lie. And there is a natural tendency to lead a pure life. And there will be natural tendency not to, to practice non-covetousness, absence of greed, etc. So these are all interrelated. So that's an interesting point which Patanjali makes here. Now next one is Satya Pradishtayam Priyam Phalasayattu. That's the second of Yama. So Ahimsa, Satya. Satya means truthfulness. So when you reach the natural state of being established in truthfulness, when we reach the Satya Pradishtha stage, then your words become true. So first we practice telling the truth. Then we succeed in sticking always to the ideal of truth. And then when you get established in the ideal of truthfulness, then you don't tell the truth. What you tell, what you say becomes true. That is the psychological and spiritual explanation of blessings and curses. You may have seen that. So when we do harm to a person, for example, when we try to do harm to a good person, that person is maybe a saintly person, he or she. And if the person is hurt, and if he feels that he may not curse you verbally, of course, but if the person feels within him or her that this man has done me, that itself becomes a subtle force, and that will chase you all your life. That is the psychology of curse. And it works the other way also, blessings also. If you do a great good deed to help somebody, a noble deed out of compassion, out of a sense of service-mindedness, with a great devotion, you help a person, a saintly person, then what happens? That person feels happy. Oh, this person has helped me. Let him be all right. That becomes a subtle force that will be working in your favor. So it will act as a guiding force. When we are about to face a trouble, either we are removed from the path of the trouble, or the trouble will be removed from our path. On the other hand, there are persons, whatever they do becomes a problem for others. So it is difficult to scientifically and psychologically demonstrate the scientific rationale of this. But this is very much a fact in life. Very often what we experience in real life cannot be scientifically proved, but is much more intimately felt and experienced in our life. Why? Because that person, if he or she is established in the ideal of truthfulness, what he says becomes true, because he has never told a lie in his life. So whatever he feels within, that becomes true. So because his words accumulate a tremendous spiritual potency. That is again is the mystery of, I often refer to this, the way of a pilgrim in the Russian mystical literature. When the pilgrim learned the secret of unceasing prayer, he had a tremendous inner feeling of fulfillment and contentment and happiness and joy, blissfulness all around him. And then as he traveled, whatever he wanted, he got. Sometimes he drive bread, was exhausted, the store was, his stock of dry bread, that is the only thing he was eating during his pilgrimage. You can read the way of a pilgrim, and the pilgrim continues his journey. When he was hungry, somebody appeared before him and gave him food. So this is what happens, when they feel within them a need, that need automatically gets fulfilled. So this is the ideal of Satya Pradishtha. As I said, first we practice speaking the truth, and then we succeed in practicing the ideal of truthfulness completely. And the third stage is called sadhana state, that is the means, the beginning state. The first one is Satya state, means when truth is our ideal. Truthfulness becomes our ideal. Second stage is sadhana state, when we try to practice truthfulness. Third stage is Satya state, when we get naturally and completely established in the ideal of truthfulness. When such a person speaks something becomes true. So there is a statement in the Bhagavata Purana, it's an ancient spiritual classic, devotional classic. Vyasa did not tell the truth. What Vyasa said became the truth. So if you really want to know the truth, you can get this English translation. Bhagavata Purana. It has got 12 sections. Sometimes called 12 books. The 12th book begins with a description of lifestyle of people in Kali Yuga, that we all practically say the concept of cycles of time, the mythological Purana concept. So there is a long description of the lifestyle and the thinking and the fashion of our times, the age in which we are living. If you are interested, you can read the book. Bhagavata Purana is the name of the text. Book 12, something is called Skandha. Chapter 1 is a description of lifestyle. It's a kind of like a futurological predictions. So it is a Vyasa did not speak the truth. What Vyasa spoke became the truth. In a way that is true of all the great spiritual teachers of Buddha, Jesus. They know. So, because they never deviated from the path of truth, whatever they spoke became truth. So that is the 36th sutra, Satya Pradishtayam Tasannidho Vairatyaga. So that's, of course, as we have to remember, Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, all days should be practiced together with Dharana. Dhyana is an advanced state, the 7th and 8th state. Dharana means fixing mind on a great idea. So all days should be practiced together, and that will help us to get established in all these 8 limbs of yoga, Ashtanga yoga, one after another. Then there is a 37th sutra, is Asteya Pradishtayam Sarva Ratnopasthan. So if you read the translation, sometimes it's easy to understand literal meaning. The literal meaning may appear to be a bit odd if you read it. The meaning is, when abstention from theft is established, all jewels come to you. That's the meaning. Ratna means jewel. What does it mean? You get plenty of diamonds and rubies? No. Ratna here means the most precious things. Whatever a person needs, desires. Of course, any spiritual seeker, when he gets fully established in Asteya, I mean absence of greed, or absence of theft, absence of the desire for possessing things belonging to other people. It's all interrelated. When a person gets completely established at the highest stage, when he reaches the highest stage of perfection in the practice of freedom from greed, freedom from theft, and freedom from the desire to possess things that belong to other people. When he reaches that stage of perfection, that ideal, then whatever he needs will come to him. What does it mean? Even, that's why those who run away from reputation chases him, that person. If you go after reputation, you will never get it. So very often in spiritual life, in our life, we find what we aspire for, sometimes we don't get. they elude, all those things will elude us. On the other hand, when we renounce those things, suddenly those things will come after you. This is something that happens in the practice of higher yoga. When we practice meditation, when we practice these higher spiritual virtues, you find what we don't want to acquire, those things will come to you. What we don't want, those things will come to you. And our progress in yoga, in the practice of yoga, depends upon our ability to say no to those things that come to us. So the ideal of renunciation, the ability to reject all these things that come to us even when we try to avoid them, that ability to say no, to reject those things, those enjoyable things, is very important in the further progress for a yogi. That is Asteya Parishtaya Sarva Ratna Upasthan. That means when you don't want anything, when you mentally, physically and spiritually renounce, when we practice asceticism with yoga, then what happens? Those things which you don't want, they come after you. But this asceticism should be the asceticism of a yogi. That's an important thing. Asceticism without moderation, without the yogic wisdom, could lead to sometimes insanity, sometimes skepticism, and very often it can lead to perversion. So that is the great warning that Patanjali is commended to Satya. So all this asceticism, I mean, when we try to through a negative approach, when we just try to run away from things without moving to a higher ideal, then it could lead to problems in spiritual life. So first we must link ourselves to a higher spiritual ideal, and then we must try to transcend. That's why yoga, chitta vritti nirodha, the definition of yoga in the Samadhipada yoga is chitta vritti nirodha. I mean cessation of our identification of a sense of ourselves with the emerging modifications. This is the literal meaning. I mean, when we try to identify ourselves with emotions and feelings, happiness and unhappiness, joy and sorrow, when we identify ourselves with all these emerging, changeable things, changeable experiences, our mind gets disturbed. And when we stop this identification, then we are entering the path of yoga. And when we enter this path of yoga, we transcend all these lower levels. We do not verbally reject. Physical or mental rejection, one-sided rejection of sensory pleasures, is kind of forced asceticism, could frequently lead to insanity, perversion, or hypocrisy or duplicity. In fact, Lord Krishna makes this very clear. Yuktahara vikharasya yukta cheshtasya karmasu yukta suknavabodhasya yugo bhavadi dukkha. There is a statement in the Gita. Yukta here means, actually yukta has one meaning. One is yukta means is a path of yoga, and it also means moderation. So in eating, in our activities, and also in our recreation, in all our activities, we must practice moderation. The moderation is an important element of yoga. So when you do that, you transcend the lower levels. You don't just physically reject the lower levels. And when you transcend, you link ourselves we link ourselves to a higher ideal. Without linking ourselves to a higher ideal, if we just physically and mentally reject the world of realities, it could be some kind of over asceticism, and that asceticism cannot be called yoga. Lord Krishna says that's why he yuktahara vikarasya, yuktas swapnasita, yuktahara vikarasya, yukta cheshtasya karmasu, yukta swapna avabodhasya. So in sleep, in dream, in food, in activities and your recreations, in all the movements, you should practice yoga, moderation. If you do that, that yoga becomes a solution, a remedy for all sorrow. Dukkha means that yoga bhavati dukkha. That yoga becomes an antidote, a remedy for all grief. That's an important point that should be remembered. As I mentioned, earlier in the beginning, our mental world is divided into three fundamental categories. One, our experience, and then our reaction to these experiences. Experiences are internal world, mental experiences, happiness, unhappiness, grief, sorrow, anxiety, and so on. And also experiences coming from external world, from other people. Two types of experiences. And then our reaction to these experiences. Our reaction to these experiences are threefold. Raga, Dvesha, Abhinivesha. Raga means our attachment, we like certain experiences. Dvesha means we dislike certain experiences. Third, we avoid certain experiences. So these are three types of our relational, emotional reaction to experiences at the internal and external level. So these experiences should be given a productive spiritual orientation through yoga. And this is done by linking ourselves to a higher ideal. And to be able to practice that, we must practice moderation. And that's the description in the Ashtanga Yoga section of Sadhanapada. Then of course there is a 38th verse that is very important. Brahmacharya Pratisthayam Virida. When people practice continence, they get established in the acquisition of higher powers. So, we have to remember some of the greatest Vedic sages, saints were all householders. So, if you read Upanishad Vedic literature, a large number of the great teachers were householders. Many were, of course, monks and nuns, of course, in all traditions. So, here the idea is restraint and self-control practiced in personal life, individual life, that is most essential for higher yogic achievement. That's the meaning of this. Then there is another one, the next 39th verse. Aparigrahasthaire janma tatha sambodha. So when you practice non-covetousness, when you establish yourself in the idea of non-covetousness, then you will be able to know your past life and future life. This is the meaning. It needs some explanation. As I mentioned earlier, yoga presupposes that one life is only one particular phase or stage in our cyclic existence. So, whenever we show any special instinct, good or bad, with a strong identification, a strong instinct, what called vasana, meaning a strong tendency. That tendency comes from another source. A psychiatrist may be able to explain some of our tendencies with the help of our experiences in this life, which we remember from memory formation days, from early childhood. But there are certain instincts, strong characteristics, which cannot be explained in the light of experiences in this life. So yoga psychology tries to explain some of these great instincts from previous life. As I mentioned, I already quoted Vatsyayena's commentary, Ayamatma Purva Sharira Praitya Sharirandhara Mapannaha Shutpedidaha Purvabhyasta Mahara Manasmaras Tanyam Abhilashadi. The example of a little baby who turns to his mother in search of food. He doesn't know anything. Nobody has taught it. Nobody has taught the baby to turn to his mother for food. It's a physical instinct. What about special characteristics that people display, which we cannot explain in the light of experiences in this life? So it comes from previous life. So our memories, impressions, vasanas, samskaras, etc. This is called karma chakra. It means karma means action. It produces a residue called vritti. It becomes a tendency, it's called vasana. Vasana becomes a strong potency, it's called samskara. And samskara again prompts you to do certain deeds, and those deeds again produce similar samskaras, similar tendencies, similar characteristics. So this cycle goes on. Now, when we practice non-covetousness, a kind of complete spiritual freedom, when we do not have any desire to possess things belonging to other people, when we completely become independent mentally, then the mental lake becomes clear. Right now, a mental lake has got different layers. It's like a lake, it's 100 feet. We can see only 3-4 feet of the surface of the lake. 97 feet below, there are different layers of mud, filth, bacteria, and so many other things. But suppose we can clean up the lake, then we will be able to see the bottom of the lake. This cleaning up happens when we achieve mental purity by practicing non-dependence upon others, by practicing aparigraha. So that's why it has got one psychological explanation. If you look up the life of great saints, mystics, in any tradition, Christian tradition, Jewish tradition, Buddhist tradition, Hindu tradition, Vedanta tradition, you find many of the great saints have to go through a period of dark night of the soul, you find. In certain cases, it may involve persecution, as it happened in the case of many great saints of medieval times in Europe. Or if you read life of Tibetan, Buddhist, Hindu mystics, you find they had to face opposition from people around them who didn't accept them at one stage of their life. Or there were internal conflicts and struggles, as it happened in the life of Buddha, for example. When Buddha sat under a tree to meditate, we can read Buddha's life, Asughosa's Buddha Vijaya, famous book. There's a long description of Buddha's struggles, different images, different impressions from previous life. It's called Jaga Katha, Jaga stories, Buddha stories. He had innumerable lives in the past. Now, when they reach a particular stage of purity, they are able to look at the past, present and future in a single dimension. Which means they are able to see their past. But for that one should have established in the spiritual ideal of non-covetousness with a strong steadiness. So there is a statement, asammana tapo vruddhi sammana tapakshena. If you are discernered, if you are a spiritual seeker, if you are discernered, you get spiritually uplifted. If you are respected everywhere, you are losing your spiritual power. So if you don't get respect from everywhere, if you are not honored by everyone, then that dishonor will add to your spiritual capital. That's called asammana tapo vruddhi. Tapa means spiritual vitality that you achieve. On the other hand, if you are honored by everyone and everywhere, and if you are given plenty of gifts wherever you go, then you may feel very happy when you are honored, but spiritually you are going down. It is spiritual descent. That's the meaning. Asammana tapo vruddhi. When you have to go through this process of dark night of the soul, either in subjective life or in external objective life, either by going through inner struggles or by facing persecution or opposition from others, you are spiritually moving forward. Some of these ideas you find in the writings of centuries of Ireland. So, every problem, every conflict, every confrontation, every obstacle is treated as a test from God. So that obstacle takes you forward by several miles in your spiritual journey. On the other hand, if you are honored everywhere, helped by everyone, then your spiritual capital will go to the person who is helping you. You find this, in fact, this Swamiji, his interpretation, if you read, you will understand. It's really tough. If when you are helped everywhere, when you receive gift from everyone, then a part of your spiritual capital you have to will go transfer to his account or her account. Because when somebody honors you, you're a spiritual seeker, then by giving that, then by honoring you or by helping you, by serving you, a part of your spiritual capital will be transferred. There is something wrong in it. That's why Swami Vivekananda says when one should continue practicing spiritual sadhana, doing spiritual practices, to accumulate so much spiritual capital that you have enough and spare to distribute to those who are coming to help you. I shall read Swami Vivekananda's interpretation. It's very revealing and it's very, very intelligent. The Swamiji says, Aparigrihasthaiye janma katha sambodha. When he is fixed on non-receiving, non-covetousness, he gets memory of past life. It's a literal translation. Means the lake becomes clear, you are able to see the rock bottom. But in the process, you should stick to this high idea of non-receiving of the gifts. When a man does not receive presents, he does not become beholden to others, but remains independent and free. His mind becomes pure. Swami Vivekananda says, with every gift, he is likely to receive the evils of the giver. So better keep giving to others rather than receiving. Because if you receive, one day you become a pauper. If you do not constantly practice spirituality, spiritual sadhanas, if you don't do spiritual practices, then your account will become empty. So better continue practice like that. So with every gift, he is likely to receive the evils of the giver. If he does not receive, the mind is purified And the first power it gets is memory of past life. So when a person reaches a level of mental purity, then the past becomes obvious to him. He may not declare it. It's an internal experience, and no genuine yogi will go about shouting all these things from the rooftop. If anybody shouts all this from the rooftop, it means he is not genuine. That's it. Then alone a yogi becomes perfectly fixed in his ideal. He sees that he has been coming and going many times. That means so many lives, so many cycles, so many births and so many lives and so many deaths. So he becomes determined that this time he will be free and that he will no more come and go, but be the slave of nature. Means he won't be the slave of nature. If he comes and goes through this cycle of cyclic existence, being born, living, dying, again reborn, then he will be a slave of nature. These plants and trees, when you plant the seed, it sprouts, it becomes a tree, and again the cycle continues. So that's the practical implication of the ideal of non-receiving of gifts, aparigraha. So now we will come to the 40th sutra. Saucha swangu jugupsa parairasam sadhya. So what happens when we practice purity, cleanliness? So Saucha means cleanliness. Of course, there are two types of cleanliness the Patanjali refers to. One is external, the other is internal. So Saucha swangu jugupsa paraihi asamsarga. Now if you keep your body clean every day, well dressed every day, and one day you may think, if you are practicing yoga, if you are a spiritual seeker, it is nothing but cleaning the outer bag. What are the contents inside this bag? Bag of skin. So that will help you to go beyond the idea you are just this physical body alone. So remember, one should never mistake just by reading the simple translation. Patanjali is not presenting before you a world-negating, a life-negating ideal of over-asceticism. In fact, I mentioned once, there is a statement in Kalidasa's famous Sanskrit poem, it's called Kumara Sambhava. So, there is a famous verse in the 5th sarga, 5th chapter. Abhikriyartham sulabham samit kusam jalani visnani vidhikshamamiti apisyasaktya tamasi pravartase sarira madhyam khalu dharma sadhana. It's a famous statement in Kalidasa, is the greatest Sanskrit poet of India. And in fact, his great plays and poetical works were translated for the first time in German and English in 18th century. In 19th century, of course, many others translated into all European languages. So he's supposed to be the greatest poetical genius the world has produced, without any prejudice, we can say, if you read it. This is just one statement in mind. Of course, there is one scene when Uma is trying to do tapasya, to spiritual practice, meditation, contemplation. Her purpose was, she wanted Shiva to be her husband. It's a mythological story with a great spiritual message behind. Anyway, there's a context. So Shiva wanted to test her. So as an ascetic Shiva came, that's a story. I don't want to The whole story I am not going to present before you. Just wanted to focus on this idea. The idea that is contained in this particular verse. So, the verse is this: Api kriyartham sulabham samikkusam jalani visnani vidhikshamaniti api sasakya tapasi pravartase sarira madhyam khali dharma sadhana. Simple translation will be something like this. Are you practicing all these austerities by your own power? Do you have enough water for your oblations, for your ceremonies, for your spiritual practices? But remember, this physical body is the chief instrument for practicing dharma. Dharma means both the highest spiritual values, virtues. So you may practice over asceticism, but remember, this body is the one instrument that you have got at your disposal. Without this body, you cannot sit and meditate. Without this body, you cannot practice any of the great spiritual disciplines. So this body is an instrument. So Sharira Madhyam Khalu Dharma Sadhana, that's the literal meaning. Ayurvedic people quote this out of context. They say body is the greatest thing sometimes, out of the context. The meaning is, there is a great commentator called Mallinatha, Sanjeevani commentator. He says, so Adya Sadhana Mukhyam Sadhana means this physical body is the most valuable, most important instrument with which you practice all these austerities. And Patanjali himself is a great exponent of the same idea. That's why he included one important sutra, which is the genesis of all the different yogic practices that you learn in yoga studies. Sthira Sukhamasana. That's the definition of asana. So, yogasanas themselves had their origin in the one sutra, 195 sutras taught in the Patanjali system, of which only one sutra is devoted to yoga, physical yoga part. So, the body is very important. It's an important instrument. The most precious tool in our hands, without which we cannot study Patanjali Yoga Sutras itself. So it's an important, relevant instrument. But one should remember, and when you go on training and polishing this body, one day you may think, what is inside this instrument which I am polishing, which I am dressing with precious clothes? When you think of that, then you won't be very much impressed. So that moment, there is something that goes beyond this wonderful body, which appears to be very wonderful. But inside nothing not so very wonderful. So that will take you to higher yoga. That will help you to transcend body consciousness, to transcend a natural obsession with the body. There are many people who think they are this physical body, nothing beyond that. So to transcend that obsession, this sutra is specially mentioned here. So when you establish yourself in the ideal of physical cleanliness, external cleanliness, Bahi Saucha, external cleanliness, that's the subject of this sutra, 40th sutra. So when you get fully established in the ideal of external cleanliness, then you also will realize that this clean body contains something which is also very clean. That is true of other human beings, other bodies also. So you will have an aversion for contacting other bodies. That's the idea behind here. A much more important sutra comes next. Of course, we will have the discussion of the first sutra in the next class. Now we have interaction, maybe for 5 minutes. So you are free to ask questions.
So, the unreceiving of gifts, fifth level, that really means practice of independence.
Independence. In a way, maybe in modern times we cannot really live without some practice of give and take, that's impossible. We are called social animal. Man is a social animal. So, probably a social animal, not other animal. So the point is, we have to practice some sort of give and take policy. But at the same time, when we go out of the way to possess things belonging to other people, to accumulate things by receiving gifts indiscriminately from everyone. So it's a check, it's a great discipline to practice self-restraint in this aspect. That's what it is called, Yama. It is one of the most important disciplines of self-restraint. So, Abhikra. So, you have to depend upon others, that's true. But when our mind gets out of the way to, in its effort to get things that belong to other people, possessiveness, and becomes an obsession, then we can keep this idea in mind. That makes sense, because when you receive gifts from others, we also give to others, so the account will be more or less equal. In a way, it's true. When you indiscriminately take the help of others without helping anybody, we may feel kind of being a parasite. We feel that it happens. We feel dependence, feeling of being dependent upon other people for everything. So that spiritually enslaves us. So in our personal life, to practice restraint, self-control, even when we have to receive things from other people, this idea.
Swamiji, you spoke a little bit about asceticism, right? So great spiritual personalities, Buddha, Jesus Christ, Swami Tattwamayananda, had an ascetic nature about them. And you spoke about the clearing of the mental lake. So they were able to achieve that because of practicing that nature. But for us, regular spiritual seekers, we may be able to, we may make some progress, but without practicing to the extent that they did, because we are partaking of worldly things. How do you think our journey will continue, and how do we make that progress?
Well, in spiritual life, we should not always aim at reaching the same level of perfection reached by the great prophets and world teachers. But if we are sincere, if not in this life, the next life we will make much more progress. So that's why it is said, whatever little we practice in this life will bring about a change in our personality, our total life. So we should remember, if you look at the lives of these great world teachers, they were born with some strong natural tendencies for spiritual life. And they didn't care for anything else. So, but at the same time, they didn't expect the whole world to be inhabited by Buddhas and Jesus and they gave this great message for the whole humanity. So it's a great ideal that they presented and placed before the humanity. So we should not imagine that just because we cannot be as perfect as they became, as them, it's no use trying to anything. That should not be their impression. They placed this great ideal for the whole humanity. So they're all models. That's the idea. But practice of Yama, for example, practice of Yama will help us to live in this world in the midst of all duties and responsibilities and social compulsions with the mental poise and balance and inner peace. There's no doubt about it. So Yama, in fact these disciplines, especially the first 5 disciplines, the 5 fundamental self-restraints, which are very vital and very relevant, very important for everyone, depending upon each individual's capacity to practice that. But they could be practiced by all, to the best of their capacity.
We spoke about the renunciation of desire. Does that apply to desire for spiritual advancement?
In fact, without this desire for spiritual advancement, you won't be able to give up desire for lower things. When we attach ourselves, when we link ourselves to a higher idea, then only we'll be able to transcend the lower things. That should be understood. Because if you have a desire for higher life, link ourselves to a higher idea, that will help us to go beyond the lower levels of desires. To have a great noble desire is the first step in spiritual life.
Sometimes it feels like that desire could be coming out of ego.
At first, there is a great misunderstanding. We should never be egoistic. Ego is terrible, wrong. That's totally wrong. To have a noble ego, clean ego, a pure ego, is the first step to reach a state of freedom from ego. Freedom from ego means freedom from lower ego. Sri Ramakrishna makes this very clear. So to have a noble desire, to sublimate our ego, to give a higher lift to our ego, is the first step in spiritual life. A Buddha, so I am going to become a great Buddha, so it's a great ego on my part to leave this palace and leaving behind. So, because I want to be spiritually enlightened, it's a great ego on my part. That's totally wrong. So a higher ego, a polished, a purified, a refined, a sublimated ego is the essential ingredient, the first step in our spiritual life. Without that, we can't make the first step in that.
So it's about truth, and if I have been always truthful in my life, can there be a situation where I turn telling lies in my lifetime? Will there be a transition, one way or another? And or it's a mix of such truth and lie in a single individual all through our life?
Well, if you think of professions like diplomacy, international diplomacy, medical profession, the doctor will not tell the real truth to the patient. The patient will be terribly upset. You have to refine it to make it acceptable. It's a lawyer. So, the absolute verbal truth is not what is meant here. So, in actual life, our sincerity or earnestness is what is needed. Often a father, what will the father tell a child, who made this sun or the moon? A little baby asks the father or mother. Really, she or he cannot explain the whole physics behind it. So he may say this sort of things. So in real life, without a design, without a scheme, if we have to practice a mixture of mixture of literal truth and its opposite. But at the same time, do not practice it as an ideal, then it is fine. Otherwise, people will not care for these great teachings. But then, If we can keep in our mind that this ideal, the highest ideal of truth, slowly you will find you will be able to stick to truth. Every sincere seeker will have this conflict when you read this. See ahimsa, the non-violence, for example. In our mind we may have very strong violent thoughts. So the text tells you that you should not have any violent thought in your mind. But people have that. When you go to a shop, you may, if only I could get this. So practically, it's a kind of, aparigraha is the opposite of aparigraha. It is a parigraha. So the point is, such thoughts will be there. So a beginner in spiritual life need not aim at. So telling lies by design, not long planning and being established, that can be avoided. We will be able to avoid that when we keep this ideal in mind. And slowly you will realize the real meaning of what is true. A truth that's painful to others, we should not tell. I quoted this Satyam Bruyar, Priyam Bruyar, na Bruyar, Satyam Priyam. So, if you take a blind man, you are a blind man, a lame hunchback, if you don't use such terms to call a person that physical, with those physical infirmities. So, but you will be telling the truth if you do that, but you won't be doing it. So like that, there are so many contexts where we can avoid telling falsehood outright if we keep this high ideal in mind. That's it. When we are sincere, we will feel the conflict. That's all. So thank you. We will continue.